large abundance of people here today, which is great. I'm glad to see the support out here. So some of you obviously will be still eating, so please continue to do so. I would like to now introduce our guest speaker for this afternoon. Our guest speaker is the commander of the 7274 Security Police Squadron. He's a native of Kansas. Major McGoffin was born February 9th. Sure, me give a mistake, sir? Okay, I'll skip it. His family moved to Louisiana in 1961, where he graduated from Lafayette High School and the University of Southwestern Louisiana in 1976. In 1985, he received a Master's in Business Administration from the University of South Dakota through the Minuteman Education Program. The major has completed Squadron Officer School and the Air Command and Staff College. Commissioned through the Reserve Officers Training Corps program in December 1976, Major McGoffin entered the Minuteman Modernized Initial Qualification Training Program at Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, in October 1977. He joined the 44th Strategic Missile Wing at Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota, in February 1978 as a missile combat crew member and a wing operations training instructor. In March 1982, Major McGoffin reported to the 868th Tactical Missile Training Squadron at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. There he was involved in creating the Launch Officers Initial Qualification Training Program for the Ground Launch Cruise Missile Program. He was assigned to the Glickham Program Management Office, Headquarters USAF in March 1984, and was responsible for all facets of the activation and bed down of the 38th Tactical Missile Wing at Buschein Air Station, Germany. Major McGoffin also served as a member of the negotiating team for the German Ministry of Defense and Headquarters USAF Memorandum of Understanding for the stationing of Glickham in West Germany and the Inter-Service Support Agreement between U.S. Army Europe and Headquarters USAF for the helicopter movement of critical assets. In February 1987, Major McGoffin was transferred to the 303rd Tactical Missile Wing at R.H. Molesworth, England, as a wing executive officer. December 17, 1987, he assumed command of the 303rd Security Police Squadron, and Major McGoffin assumed his current position in July 1988. The Major's decorations include the Meritorious Service Medal with 1 Fleet Cluster, the Air Force Commendation Medal with 1 Fleet Cluster, and the Air Force Combat Readiness Medal. Major McGoffin is married to the former Ann Joubert, and they have 3 children. He will be departing in June to attend the Army Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you Major Michael W. McGoffin.
Thank you, Sergeant Brown. He wasn't sure he was going to get Buschein pronounced right. I'm glad that he did. That's one of the tough words. Colonel Clifton, Colonel Hilliard, Lieutenant Colonel Stewart, ladies and gentlemen, Class 90-4. I really am glad to be here today, as I enjoy these graduations. It's because this represents the completion of the first step that you will be taking to developing into a professional NCO. For the past 2 weeks, you've been working hard, listening to speakers, discussing issues, getting inspected, and especially taking tests. Sergeant Brown told me last night he was putting the B test out for you guys because it's a little tougher. You've been working hard to prepare yourself for the day you'll become an NCO and a leader. But that's not all you've been doing. Just as important as the classwork you've been doing is the fact that you've been expanding your horizons. How many of you folks from ESC do more than say, "Hi, Echo 54," when you ask Airman Maldonado for your restricted area badge up on the hill? Prior to this, who in the class really thought about what Airman Haddon did to get you our mail on time? Probably didn't think too much about that. Now that you know some of these people and got some faces to go with the organizations, you might think a little more about this. You've expanded your horizon. During this year's Pervet breakfast, General Metzler, the guest speaker, told us that a mind stretched by a new idea never returns to the same shape. Well, for the past 2 weeks, graduates, you've been stretching your mind. You've made a good start towards expanding your horizon and preparing yourself to become a leader. But what you've done, although being a good start, isn't by far enough. When I graduated from ROTC, way back when, I was ready to go out and set the Air Force on fire. I finished 4 years of professional Air Force education. I knew what I needed to do. I was ready to get out there. And I adopted this saying as my motto: lead, follow, or get out of the way. Well, that meant I'm going to lead, you're going to follow, and everybody else get out of the way because I'm coming through. Well, that was rather simplistic. It's a nice thing, good dogma to work by, but I've learned since I've been in the Air Force that dogmatists tend to fail. So, as I've gone along, I've learned that I had to modify my ideas. Through ROTC, I learned the bare basics in the art of leadership, and my horizons were very limited. But like any other introduction to course, and that's what ROTC was, it's what the NCO preparatory course is, it gives you just the bare basics to work with. You need more. Two things in particular. The first is experience, and the second is more information. The experience you will get as you progress through your Air Force career. And speaking from experience, it comes from the darndest situation sometimes. But what you have a direct input into is gathering of more information. Now those of you who just graduating are saying, cripes, we just got finished working our tails off for 2 weeks and he wants us to go down and sign up for more PME or go to the University of Maryland and sign up for a management course, the Education Center. Well, that for some of you that will work very well. But that's not what I'm talking about. The additional information I'm talking about is available no farther away than the base library, the bookstore, or even your supervisors or officers that you work for. By talking to people you see who are good leaders, you can learn how they have developed into leaders. You can get their ideas on what makes a good leader. As far as the library and the bookstore, the best way to expand your horizons is by reading. And I'm not just talking about the books that are on the warrior preparation shelf. Those are good, but they're a bit one-dimensional for the most part. They don't cover a broad enough spectrum. What you need to look at is topics in business, government, social issues, religious topics. But don't restrict yourself just to the nonfiction. You'd be surprised how often what you've read in your favorite mystery, Western, adventure novel, and even a romance novel can give you an idea of how to approach a problem. Every time you read a new book, every time you pick up a newspaper or a magazine, talk to one of your supervisors or a leader, you're expanding your horizons. You're stretching your mind, seeing something new, giving you different ideas on how to look at things. Sometimes, though, what you read is going to require a bit of interpretation. A few years ago, while I was up at headquarters USAF, a friend of mine that was working on the staff with me just got word that he was going to become a Glickham flight commander. A Glickham flight commander is a really unique job. It takes launch operators, maintenance personnel from usually 3 to 4 different career fields, 44 cops, and everybody knows cops are hard to control, and med techs, and takes all these people, combines them into one cohesive unit. Now, working in a shop with everybody the same AFSC or the same duties is a difficult job. Bringing all this together is really takes some special people. And he was very concerned about this because the most he'd ever commanded was a 2-man launch crew 60 feet under South Dakota. So we were talking about this one day, and we got to discussing things, and I suggested that he might want to read a book I'd read a few months earlier called Platoon Leader by John McDonough. He said, fine. He found the bookstore, went off to read it. A few days later, he came back and just sort of looked at me rather funny and said, well, it's an interesting book. I like it. But I'm not really sure how it applies. So we discussed it, and I said, well, give me an example. I said, well, there's this one particular incident in the book where the platoon lieutenant had a new troop come in. He'd been in country for a while, but he'd been down in Saigon, and came back, and during the initial inspection, he found a small bag of marijuana in his rug, so they destroyed that, and the lieutenant told him he didn't tolerate that stuff. Well, a couple of days later, they're going out on patrol, and after he finished checking the equipment, the lieutenant was walking off to check on something else, and he heard a pop. And going sailing by his ear was a grenade. And he turned around, the young man was standing there with his grenade launcher sneering and says, oops, I dropped it. The lieutenant walked over, very calmly stuck the barrel of his M16 under the guy's chin and raised him to his toes, and told him that next time he dropped it, he'd best kill him, because if not, he'd blow his head off. Turned around, walked away, finished his job, and then the people went off and did their patrol. Now, granted, this tactic does not win points for diplomacy and tact, but it was very effective. But you have to look at what he did. The lieutenant identified the problem. Now here's a troop that did not want to conform to standards. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. He got his attention, rather in a dramatic way, corrected the behavior, told him what the consequences were going to be for further misbehavior, and then he dropped it, continued the mission. And isn't that what a good leader is supposed to do? Now, if I were to offer you a reading list of things to do to expand your horizons, I'd limit it to two. Now, it's not because these are definitive works on leadership or anything, because they're not. Each person's got their own idea of what will work for them. But these I've found helpful. The first is called the Patent Principles. It's about a 150-page book. It's short, it's entertaining, but it's given me ideas on some ways on how to approach different problems. The second book, which I think is probably more important, is called The Education of a Wandering Man by Louis L'Amour. If any of you folks are into horse operas, Western books, you know this gentleman. He's not a military genius. He's not a great philosopher. And if you listen to Father Zeller, he probably won't be remembered past 1999. But it's a very good book. What's notable about the book is that throughout he encourages you, the reader, to develop a breadth of view. Try to develop an ease of understanding and tolerance of others, and a background from which your mind can explore in any direction. To me, that's what a good leader should be striving for. And it's also probably the toughest thing anybody can do. Class 90-4, congratulations on completing your first step into the adventure of leadership. And I hope that you can successfully develop the skills necessary to become a good leader, the ability to recognize when you need to follow, and the wisdom to know to get out of the way of your subordinates so they can get on with the mission you've given them. Thank you.
Thank you, Major McGough. This time I would like Class 9004 to prepare its graduation. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the presentation of graduate certificates and the award presentation. Presenting the graduation certificates this afternoon to Lieutenant Colonel Stewart, our host for today's event. The first certificate will be presented to the class leader of Class 9004, who is Senior Michael C. Hudson, Jr., 6950 Electronic Security Group. The rest of the class in alphabetical order are Seniorman Ryan M. Bishop, 6950 Electronic Security Group. Seniorman Allison J. DeGroot, 1112 Communications Squadron. David W. Elson, 6950 Electronic Security Group. Chairman Tony T. Flowers, 1112 Communications Squadron. L. Hatton, Jet 5, 7025th Air Force Squadron. Airman First Class, Beth A. Hightower, 727. Airman First Class, April K. Cantor, 7274th Air Base Group, Plenty. Airman John M. Maldonado, 7274th Intel Film Carriers, United Pacific Electronic Security Group. Chairman Craig A. Polson, 7274th Air Base Group. Ladies and gentlemen, the graduates of Class 9004. Thank you, Colonel Stewart, for presenting the graduation certificate. Students, please be seated. This time I'd like to ask Colonel Leary to please come forward and help present our Distinguished Graduate Awards. Distinguished graduates are those students who excelled in meeting the academic requirements and through exemplary varying behavior, attitude, and class participation, served as role models for their classmates. Receipt of the Distinguished Graduate Award recognizes high achievement for those students whose performance places them at the top of their class. Our first Distinguished Graduate Award goes to Senior Airman Craig A. Polson, 7274th Air Base Group. Our next Distinguished Graduate Award goes to Chairman Zan P.V. Taylor. Now I would like to ask our guest speaker to come forward, Major McGoffin, to present our John Levitor Award. During the course, the students are not only challenged by the curriculum, but also in keen competition with their peers. The John Levitor Award is presented to that student who has excelled in meeting both those challenges. This award is named after the first Air Force Enlisted Medal of Honor winner since World War II, Sergeant John L. Levitor. The John Levitor Award denotes excellence as a leader and a scholar, and is the highest honor awarded to a graduate. The John L. Levitor Award winner for this class of 9004 is Chairman Stephen L. Haddon. Back up here just for a second. Thought you were going to get away with it, didn't you? Sergeant Stanley would like to make a presentation on behalf of the Air Force Sergeant Association.
First off, congratulations on your tenure. I'd like to present you this certificate. One year membership.
Class 904, Senior Airman Husky, will come forward and make a few comments on behalf of the class.
On behalf of Class 904, we would like to thank all of you for attending our graduation banquet. This has been an eventful and meaningful 2 weeks of our Air Force career. We covered many useful tools to help us become supervisors and qualified leaders in today's Air Force. Also, we learned that helping others is one of the superior goals in the military. During this period, we conducted a bake sale for the Cub Scouts, a bowl-a-thon, and a civilian clothes day, which we raised over $1,100 for multiple charities, including Chief Binnicker's retirement ceremony, which is being sponsored here at RF Chicksands, a resuscitation doll for a Bedfordshire hospital, scholarship funds for the seniors of RF Chicksands, and the local Cub Scout Association. I would like to say to the members of Class 9004, take and use what we have learned. Just because PME is over, don't slack off. Let's keep up the standards that Sergeant Brown has set for us. Speaking of Sergeant Brown, I would like to present this Air Force pin holder to Sergeant Brown on behalf of Class 9004 and appreciation for all that he has done for us. Now, in the words of Senior Airman Buddy Mansilla, we're out of here.
You forget, I get the last word. I need to have you back up here for a second. I'll teach you. You'll learn. These folks really busted their backsides last weekend. I tell you what, I've never taken a group of inexperienced tent builders in my life and put up a tent, but that was an experience in itself last Friday. We got a tent together, put it up, bind AYA for the Cub Scout Olympics. It had it was about 190 Boy Scouts here, about 350 people, as most of you probably read in the antenna. But these people really hustled to make that event happen. It just so happens that I am the assistant Cub Master, and the Cub Master, Sergeant Rodney Vinegar, has sent the class a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the Boy Scouts of America for helping during the Cub Scout Olympics. So I'd like to present this to you on behalf of the class. Thank you very much. Okay, before I close today's graduation ceremony, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Young Major McGoffin, for his inspiring words that he shared with us. Thank you very much, sir. Also, a special mention to the NCO Club staff for a most enjoyable meal. I'd like for everyone to please stay and congratulate the graduates and also the award winners while having cake and coffee. And on behalf of the students and myself, thank you for coming and supporting the graduation of class of 9004. Thank you.
Well, I told me to cut it. You know, I didn't give him a total amount of the
Just think about that money. Just think about the money. The money.
Don't think about 4 more years.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and I will obey the orders of the President and of the officers appointed over me
the officers according to
regulations and uniform code of military justice. So help me God. Congratulations.
Wait till you change your mind before you find it quick.
It's on film. Forget it. It's too late. It's on film.
Don't do it, don't do it.
Okay. I'm in the habit of doing this during the PME graduation. We got getting there.